Welcome to the Lunchtime Livestream. We're so glad you guys are here today. My name is John Kelly. I'm the Minister of Engagement here at Catalyst Christian Church. Just a little minor announcements here for you. Well, not so minor, because the very first announcement is that we're having a night of worship Tuesday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. That is our annual night of Thanksgiving. We love to do that every week leading into the Thanksgiving celebrations that happen on Thursdays. Also, if you're interested in joining a community group here at Catalyst, you can contact our senior minister, David Kibler, at dkibler@catalystchristian.net if you're interested in joining one of those groups. Also, every Tuesday from about 7 till 9, you're going to see a group of people hanging out over at Monos Coffee on Lexington Road here in Nicholasville. Go check that out. It's a great coffee shop, great coffee, even better company. Just a lot of folks from Catalyst hanging out. Would love to have you guys there with us. And with all that said, I now want to bring in our illustrious speaker from Sunday morning who brought us the message, Donovan Gregory. What's up, dude?
What's up? There's always some new title you give me, I swear, man. Something different every month.
Well, it's because there's no single title that works for you.
That's true. I'm very
Oh, did we lose you? Okay, looks like Donovan may have gone down for just a second. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of get things going, and let's see. Oh, he's back. There we go. Yeah, you kind of stopped there for a second. We're not sure what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. The internet's messing up over here, I guess, because everything froze. So.
Oh, okay, I got you. Well, hey, do me a favor and show everybody that really cool shirt you're wearing.
Okay.
Salty and lit. I thought about introducing you as the salty and lit speaker from Sunday morning, but I'm 47 years old, and I don't sound cool when I say things like that. So,
but I do. So
I just avoided it with everything. Daryl Jordan just said, listen to JK and Donovan or study for my 107. Tough call. Not a tough call, man.
You should definitely
totally listen to us. Totally listen to us. But we're going to be talking today about kind of your testimony and your story a little bit today, Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, your sermon was entitled Donovan's Excellent Adventure. And I kind of want to give some insight to where that title came from, because it started out as a joke. I mean, quite honestly, Donovan comes into my office and goes, I don't know what to title my sermon. And I was like, well, what are we talking about? Because we're just talking about my testimony. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to put Donovan's Excellent Adventure in there. And then when you come up with a good name, we'll use that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put it in there. And then Donovan, you said Dave saw it. And what happened when Dave saw it?
Dave saw it on Planning Center and came to my office the next day. And he goes, Donovan's Excellent Adventure. Is that really your title? And I was like, John came up with it, but do you like it? And he goes, I love it, and starts dying laughing. I was like, yeah, that's my title.
I was going to say, it wasn't meant to be the title. I just wanted to put something down so I had something for the Planning Center stuff for the worship team and everything. So it's just kind of funny that ended up being the title. And then I got to make the world's my absolute favorite all-time sermon slide. And if you go on YouTube to our Catalyst YouTube channel, you're gonna crack up when you see the thumbnail for his sermon. It's hilarious.
It's awesome.
So your main thing this week was, I don't want what the world offers. I don't want what the world offers. And you kind of focused everything around John 3:16 through 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so real quick, I'm just going to read through those verses, and we're just going to kind of go from there and talk, if that's cool with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they've not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. Now, you had mentioned that John 3:16 was your favorite verse.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Well, like I said on Sunday, it was the first verse that I ever sat down and memorized because I wanted the green stars from Upward. But it's just always something that's stuck in my brain. I know it's like one of those basic verses or whatever, but I struggle with memorizing things. And so that just always being something that I can memorize I knew it meant something to me if I could memorize it so well.
I got you. Well, I wouldn't say that it's a basic verse
Yeah,
at all. I mean,
it's one of those
it's
verses that's like everyone, it's worldly known kind of thing.
I would say that it's probably foundational.
Yeah,
I think foundational would be the word I would use. It's a
yeah,
foundational verse. It's one that there's a reason why everybody knows it.
hmm
I mean, basically, who we are as Christians is based off of that verse.
hmm
I mean, it really is. And so I think it's awesome that that's your favorite verse. I think a lot of people are afraid to have that as their favorite verse.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I say that
yeah,
like in jest, but at the same time, there's so many people who they want their favorite verse to be like something what they consider super deep or not what everybody else has or
yeah.
original or what. But the truth is, God loved the world and gave Jesus so we could have eternal life. You know, I mean, is there anything better than that
No,
in the Bible?
the way you described it as foundational is uh, the best way to describe it in my head. Definitely. Once you said that, it just like all clicked. I'm like, that's exactly right.
Well, and so I that's why I said I think it's great that that's your favorite
Yeah,
verse. I know a lot of people will be like, well, everybody knows that verse. Why would that be your favorite verse? But the truth is, I
yeah,
mean, if we don't have that as our basis, you know, why are we even talking right now? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about you
yeah.
because
Sure. Why
this
not?
last week was kind of a little bit of a view into you, but at the same time, when you're preaching a sermon, you can't always really just talk about yourself too much, or it kind of takes the attention off of what you're there for on a Sunday morning. So
Mhm.
um, today, I just want to kind of talk about you because you're still fairly new to the church as far as like working here. You've been going here for a while,
Yeah.
but let's just talk about you for a second. Let's talk about the kind of family you grew up in, what your parents were like, how they raised you, um, kind of your history in the church, like how you grew up,
Mhm.
um, where you first really claimed your own faith. But let's kind of start talking about Charlie and Robin, the Gregory parents. Tell us a
The-
little bit about how they raised you.
I mean, I've always felt like they raised me just like the normal way, and for most of my life, and I still think that I've been raised the most normal way comparing to everyone else, but they are a little bit. There's obviously differences because every kid's different and every parent's different, but their main goal in our family is just to love us. So my dad grew up pretty poor, lived in a two-bedroom house his entire life, and paid a quarter of the bills when he was at working age. When he turns 15, he started washing dishes at Georgetown College so he could pay some of the bills. So my dad's always been one of those people that's like, no matter what it is, um, no matter what it is, he'll get it for us. They'll move money around, they'll move schedule around. No matter what it is, he will do it for us. So like college, when I needed extra money to buy food when I was at Tiffin, my parents would send me money almost immediately. And I felt bad about it, obviously, because who wants to take money from their parents that they haven't really earned? But that's just the kind of parents they were. It's love for their kids over everything.
Yeah. Daryl Jordan
Yeah,
commented, "You're talking about Charlie Gregory. There's nothing normal there."
that's not wrong.
For those who don't know, Charlie was actually an elder at Catalyst for several years, and then moved to Georgetown to be closer to his mom and closer to work. And they now they're in a church up there that they
Mhm.
love as well. When they left Catalyst, it wasn't one of those things where they necessarily wanted to leave Catalyst. It was they live in a different city now, so they ended up going there. And Donovan continued to come here,
Mhm.
and so church was obviously very important to you growing up.
Mhm.
Um, where do you think you got that example from? Where do you think you picked up the just the importance of church and being at church? Where did that come from?
I mean, it came from my parents. We went to. I've gone to church every Sunday, permitting, for most of my life that I can remember. They went to Southern Acres for 25 years, 22 years, something like that, in the 20s. And so we would go to Southern Acres, and I grew up in that children's ministry, and I was baptized at Southern Acres. And my grandmother, my dad's mom, she, went to church. She grew up going to church, and so did my mom. She actually grew up Catholic, and then when her mom and dad moved down to Southern Michigan or Kentucky, they broke out of the Baptist church and started going to Protestant churches. So
Catholic? They broke out of the Catholic church?
Yeah.
Okay. You said the Baptist church. I was just making sure.
Oh, sorry.
Catholic I don't want to insult our Baptist brethren.
Church.
Your Baptists are not Catholic, so I just wanted to make sure.
Cause I was thinking Baptist because she goes to Elkhorn Baptist Church right now, South Elkhorn Baptist Church. So Baptist was just in my brain. That's where my grandmother goes. But so they grew up in the church, and then they just brought it to us as my family, and we grew up in the church, and that's where a lot of my friends were growing up. Like my best friend, we went to Great Wolf Lodge for his birthday almost every year, and all kinds of friend group stuff happened in my childhood growing up in the church. So, yeah.
I got you. Now, you guys, you went to Southern Acres for a huge portion of your life.
Yeah.
And then you guys ended up going somewhere else. What did you guys end up doing there?
So we went to two churches in between that I remember that are in between Southern Acres and Catalyst. We went to Centerpoint Church, not Brian Bolton's Centerpoint, but the other Centerpoint in Lexington for my 6th and 7th grade year of school.
Were they still meeting in a movie theater at that point?
They were meeting across from the old movie tavern. And there's like a strip mall type thing there. So they had two buildings or two places there. One was the children's thing, and one was the head church thing. So, I went to summer camp with them. I did, youth group stuff there. I went to school with some of those kids at Youth J. Hayes in middle school. And then after that, we saw a church plant meeting at the middle school I was going to. We saw a sign for Momentum Christian Church, and we wanted to get plugged in there. So we joined Momentum Christian Church. When we joined them, they were kind of at the stage Elevate is at now. I think they were a little bit older, but they were still in the small. There was probably 35 of us to 50 of us on a good week while we were at that middle school. Now,
while you were at Momentum, the reason I wanted to bring this up, there's a reason for every question I'm asking you, obviously.
That's fine.
But I think just from our conversations, this is where God started maybe planting in the back of your brain that maybe you needed to start working with kids.
Yeah.
And how do you think he was doing that there at Momentum?
Well, I went to Momentum 8th grade and freshman year and some of sophomore year, and then it dissolved. But 8th grade and freshman year, my mom volunteered in the children's ministry that we had once a week, I believe. Just like our children's ministry here. They had a rotation going
for the most part. You mean once a month?
Yeah, once a month. Did I say once a week?
Yeah, it's all good. Keep going.
Once a month, and I would help with her because she needed help just wrangling the kids. It was still small, so we had, toddlers. Well, we had pre-K to 5th grade in there, and the toddlers were in their own special room, or the little tiny babies. So we did pre-K to 5th grade, and then we moved from that building that we were in to the Lexington Ice Center. There's a lot of drama there that I don't really know all the details to. So we're in the Lexington Ice Center, and we don't have a children's minister and or a youth minister. Really, my parents are the head of our youth ministry, and I, as a freshman in high school, essentially was handed the curriculum for the children's ministry and start doing children's ministry every week.
So as a freshman in high school, I just want to make sure we get this out. As a freshman in high school, for all intents and purposes, you were kind of running the children's ministry
Yep.
at your church.
Yep. There's about 6 kids, and 2 of them were second graders, 2 of them were third graders, and 2 of them were fifth graders.
Were you ever intimidated by that?
At the beginning I was, and then I kind of just became my thing that I did. I was the cool kid who hung out with the cool high schooler who hung out with all the little kids.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because when I was in high school, I volunteered in children's ministry at my church. We did like this Sunday morning thing. What was it called? Reverend Rufus, I think is what it was called. It was actually something that Southland had done, but it had gone nationwide, and we were doing it up in Northern Ohio at my dad's church where I grew up. And so I was doing that every week. I would do the 2s and 3s. I would go in and help teach that class. I would occasionally work in the nursery. I did a lot of children's ministry stuff, and that was Sunday. Then I would go to school during the week, and I was a foul-mouthed, testosterone driven teenage boy who, if you didn't know my dad was a preacher, you'd have no idea that I even went to church. Was that at all like you? Were you like that, or were you a little bit more consistent from Sunday through the week?
I'd say both, honestly. So throughout school, I was like in class, I was quiet, did all the work. Well, did all the work on the day, and not necessarily all the homework, but I was quiet. I listened to the teachers. I actively engaged in the conversations. I didn't. Most people knew, at least most of my classmates knew that I was a Christian / went to church. But it's kind of like I put on a different personality when I started playing soccer in high school. So I was probably closer to the person I was Sunday morning during the school day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. But around 4 to 6 usually, I turned into a different person who played sports and was a testosterone-driven high school boy who just, competitive, wanted to win, didn't really care what happened in between.
Yeah, I know, talking to a lot of guys, when you talk about the high school years, especially guys who are in ministry now, a lot of them were in youth group, a lot of them were volunteering, doing like what you were talking about, working with kids, and they were the same way. Sunday, they were holy, righteous kids who loved Jesus and were telling people about him and everything like that. And then we get to the week, and they were just like everybody else. There wasn't really any difference. But somewhere along the way, there was a switch. Something flipped, something changed, and their faith became serious, and they really took it seriously. And that's when the call to ministry happened. So when was it for you, when in the midst of this like double personality kind of thing, like when did it finally hit you? Okay, now I gotta change this. And then when after that did God really call you to ministry?
Yeah. So probably I'd say that I realized that I needed to change my senior year of high school. So I was already committed to go play soccer, and I was miserable in Lexington / in Kentucky. I had like 3 friends, and that was about it. Most everyone either I pushed away or they pushed me away out of the friendship. But I just was miserable, and I just was like, I need to change. So hopefully just getting out of state and going somewhere where nobody knows me will change who I am, which it didn't necessarily. And then I probably really realized my call to ministry. What year is that? Not 2020, probably beginning of 2019, with when I really started sitting down with Rob and doing our Bible study with Rob.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you and I actually talked about, like, a lot of people don't know this, but you're actually going to school right now for ministry. You didn't have a ministry degree when you came to Catalyst, but you're one of ours. You're already part of our church, and we wanted to keep you long term. And so if you were going to go into youth ministry, we don't want you going somewhere else doing it. We wanted you to do it here. And so you're going to the 4C Institute and learning stuff. And once a week, you and I have to sit down and talk through the past week and talk about what's going on and all these different things. And one of the things we talked about this past week was relationship building.
Mhm.
And one of the things that kind of helped you shape that calling or that desire to get into ministry was when you and Rob Harlemert, who is now the senior minister at Elevate, former youth minister here, the two of you started getting together weekly and just getting in the Word.
Mhm.
What was that like for you? Like, what caused that to start? Did you seek him out? Did he seek you out? And how long have you been doing that now?
So it's actually really funny. I could be wrong, but from what I remember, he seeked me out, but it wasn't to meet yet. He told me to download this video game. It's super easy to run on a laptop, and he wanted to play this video game with me. And that happened in in 2018, I believe, at the end of 2018, when I was going to UK for journalism. He was like, download this game. It's called League of Legends, and we play it all the time and all that stuff. But he told me to download this game, and I would play it with him 2 or 3 times a week for about four months. And then he was like, hey, Aaron, who used to be an intern here, and I are doing a Bible study. Would you want to join us? And I was like, sure, what day is it? And he goes, Tuesdays. I was like, that's perfect, because I only have one class on Tuesdays, and it ends at 9 a.m. So I pretty much have Tuesday free. I can just ask off of work. And so I showed up to this Bible study, not really thinking any of it. It was like fun, a Bible study with someone I play video games with, who has become one of my good friends now, and someone else who I enjoy talking to. And so I started going to Bible study, and not even realizing what he was doing to me, essentially. We still meet. So I think it's almost 3 years now, two and a
Yeah,
half,
definitely. Well,
something like that.
2018. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So what you're
so
saying is God called you through video games.
pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty
Like,
much.
there are teenagers everywhere that are listening to this going, I told mom and dad, like, if I do video games, God will speak to me. And they didn't believe me. And now you're proof that it works.
Yeah. It took some
So,
convincing, because I'd never played this game before. Well, I tried to play this game before, and I hated it because I had no idea what was going on. And he was like, just let me explain everything to you. And I was like, okay.
so let me ask you this. Okay. So you were now meeting with Rob, and then Aaron ends up moving to
Charlotte,
North Carolina, right? Yeah. Moves to North Carolina. It's just the two of you now. This is when I think, from talking to you and talking to Rob, it kind of got a little more intense. Like, as far as like really him pouring into you. When was it that he looked at you and started saying, have you thought ministry?
I think end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we really started to push the idea of ministry into my head. I wasn't miserable at UK. For people who don't know, I was a journalism major at UK, and the program that I was in didn't give me enough credit hours to graduate, so we had to choose a minor. And every minor that I tried to choose, I would talk to him about it. I talked through him. I tried to decipher what minor I wanted to do. Every minor that we decided that I should pursue, there was something always up with it. Like, I could never do it. Like, one would overlap with too many classes that I had to take. One wasn't available until the next semester, all kinds of things. And so kind of when that stuff started happening at the end of 2019, we started pushing in my brain, like, you should do ministry. And I volunteered in the youth group with him. And so I would show up early from work, because I live in Georgetown, so I got off at 5. I got off at 6, and youth ministry didn't start till 7. So I just went early because I didn't have time to go home. So I would hang out with him and Ian while they practiced for worship, and we would talk just about life and stuff. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, so now you're talking ministry, and that idea is starting to get planted in your head.
Mhm.
When did it go from this is something we talk about to that oh no moment of I need to go into ministry? Because I know for me, it was in church camp in high school.
Mm.
It was my sophomore junior year. Our dean for the week was a guy named Moose Robinson. And if you ever saw him back then, you would know why they called him Moose. He was a big dude. But Moose was one of our deans for our week of camp, and he
Mhm.
grabbed a hold of me one day. He goes, John, I've been your dean for camp for years. And he goes, I don't know if you realize this, but I really feel strongly that God is calling you to be a minister.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was a high school kid, so my faith was about as deep as a wading pool. And
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm being honest, like
Yeah.
that's where I was at that point.
Yeah.
And he just grabs a hold of me and he says, I feel like God's calling you to ministry. And I couldn't get that out of my head. Like
Mhm.
it just wouldn't go away. It was like this, how like somebody plants a thought inside your head and it
Yeah.
just won't go away.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. And so I didn't commit to becoming a minister that year or anything, but the next year I did when I
Yeah.
went to church camp. And I went up to Moose and I said, because of your conversation with me last year, that's made me make this decision this year. And from that point forward, I couldn't do anything else. I tried to go into the Air Force, and the recruiter lied to me about something, so I ended up not going there.
Mhm.
I wanted to go into sports broadcasting, and I was going to go to Syracuse University up in New York, and it just ended up being way too expensive to be able to go there, and there was no way for me to go. And the only option that was left was the one that I'd said I was going to do, and God made it happen. When was that moment for you when you realized and you couldn't get it out of your head and you just knew, like, without a shadow of a doubt, this is what you need to be doing?
I think it was January/February of 2020. Uh, Mentally, I was exhausted and burned out just on life and emotionally too. I couldn't figure out a minor for UK. Uh, it was the pandemic hit at that time, so we were sent home at spring break. Um, and he started, he's like, you can graduate UK and go to seminary, like that's fine. That was the plan essentially. He kind of brought to my brain. It's like, you should, look into it and see if you want to go to seminary when you're done. Because we were reading something. He always reads James, Timothy's, and Philippians, I think, is the other one that we always read together. And there's something in there. And he was like, you can do that if you go into ministry. And I was like, but do I want to go into ministry? And he's like,
Right.
you should go into ministry. Just blurbed it. And then we carried on with our conversation. And so that was always, in the back of my brain. I was going to finish UK and go to seminary and talk to my parents about it. They were on board with it. And then the pandemic hit and we had to do online school. And I started failing 2 classes. And there was this one time so many people tell me about dreams that they have, and they're like, God spoke to me in these dreams. And it's not that I never believed them. I just, never experienced it for myself. And I had one of those dreams one night, and there's just the bright white light in my dream. And all I hear is, you're on the right path, keep going. And that's like what made it click in my brain that I need to pursue ministry. And the next day at work, I applied to Johnson University, and that's when Rob started putting out feelers for me, and we genuinely sat down and started talking about ministry. So it was like February, March when we really started talking about that, because like I was failing classes at UK. I couldn't find a minor. I was going to have to be on academic probation. I wasn't going to be able to go to school the next semester. And so just all kind of was like, there's nothing you can do right now at UK. You need just to leave UK. So I was like, okay. So
It doesn't sound like that was a very hard decision for you.
no.
No. Renee Basham says, I'm very familiar with that feeling, kind of what we've been talking about here. Said, transferred to Bible college, have a degree in youth ministry, but knew I wasn't working in a church. Little did I know the path I was on. And for those who don't know, Renee has a ministry that she does where she works as a doula for young ladies who are single moms and can't really afford to have somebody there through the birthing process. And she has ministered to so many young ladies, and even to those of us who are married, she's ministered to us through this. And God has really used her in a mighty way. And so we're very thankful for Renee and the calling that she's had. Now, Donovan,
Mhm.
so now we've gone through, you were a kid, you're raised in the church. Your parents switch up churches a couple times. You end up in a church plant. You start leading a children's ministry as a freshman in high school. You go off to college and you realize your life isn't where it should be. So you come back home and go to college. And now you know for a fact you've been called into ministry. So what things started happening? Because I know initially you weren't supposed to end up at Catalyst.
I was supposed to go to Elevate with Rob. That's why I stayed at Catalyst, was because I promised Rob that I would go with him to plant Elevate and be part of that team.
And then you found a program that would get you into a youth ministry. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that was also a lot of help with Rob. Rob really, I applied to Johnson University. I couldn't afford it at the time, so I was gonna have to wait a little bit. And Rob was like, "Dude, we have to get you in youth ministry." He's like, "What do you want to do right now? Do you want an internship? Do you want a job? What do you want?" And I was like, "I would love a job." So he texted Brian Bolton, who's the head pastor over at Centerpoint Christian Church, and had an opening for a youth ministry position. And Brian showed me this awesome course, this awesome school that I'm actually currently a part of. It's called the 4C's Ministry of Institute, the 4C Ministry Institute. And they are completely free to the student. We have to write a letter to one of the givers of the money and essentially tell them and commit to them that we are going to finish this program if they sponsor us. And so we get sponsored, and then we get accepted into the program. It's a really long interview process, not because they are trying to get the best of the best, but they're very focused on getting ministers into the field best equipped as possible. So they only have 3 pathways. They have like head minister pathway, a worship minister pathway, and an executive minister pathway. And so I chose the head minister pathway. So they take preaching classes and all the stuff a head minister needs. And there's youth ministry things involved there, but that's just because they know that you start out as a youth minister and you work your way up. But
it's really funny you talking about this, okay? Because Rob tells me about this, right? Tells me that you're doing this and you may be working with Brian Bolton. At the time, we were trying to figure out what to do for when Rob left Catalyst. We had gotten some resumes. None of them really clicked for us. We were just like, none of these guys are really kind of what we're looking for. And we just couldn't figure it out. We were like, what is God trying to tell us? And so I'm in Dave's office, and I said something about, somehow your name came up in our conversation. And Dave goes, "Well, what's Donovan doing?" I said, "Well, I think he's doing a program where he does like an internship kind of thing with a church. And I think he's going to go work with Brian Bolton at Centerpoint." And Dave just stops and goes, "Wait a second, what? Why is he going somewhere else?"
Yeah.
Like, we need Donovan here. And quite honestly, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I hadn't even thought about you because I figured you already had a plan. So I was like, well, he already knows what he's doing, so I don't want to bother Donovan. Not even thinking, oh, wait a second, maybe I should bother Donovan. And so literally 5 minutes later, I call you on the phone, and I just kind of laid it out there for you. And I've never asked you this, but what was going through your head when that phone call happened?
A lot. So ironically, I was playing League of Legends with Rob right before you called me.
It all comes back. League of Legends brought you to ministry.
Yes. So you called me and I mean I talked to you about it and you kind of set everything out there and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing with Brian. Like that's the plan. I'm gonna interview with his staff and his elders in a couple weeks. And then you were like, well, why don't you just come have lunch with me and Dave and we can talk about everything. And it just it I was shocked and confused and excited and happy. Like all these emotions just flooded me. Like after the phone, I sat in my desk chair for no kidding, like 7 minutes, just thinking about stuff that was said and what I was feeling and um, I didn't know what to do. Honestly, I didn't expect. My life to turn around so quickly. So I was out of school and I was waiting to go to Johnson and my mom had a come to Jesus talk with me and she was like, if you're not going to go to school, you need to get a job that has benefits and pays better so you can move out. Maybe 3 weeks before that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I have this opportunity to get a job that has benefits and pays better and move out. That I will actually enjoy. That's not a miserable like working at Toyota or Amazon or anything like that. So I was excited and confused and I'm like, did this really just happen? Like, is this real? And then my dad worked for Toyota and he was working at home right outside my door. And so he was out of a meeting and I talked to him and I was like, I think they want me to go work at Catalyst as a youth minister. And my dad goes, what? And I was like, I think so. He goes, that's awesome. And
well, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like as soon as that phone call was over, I went into Dave's office and I said, like, this from working with me, when I get a really strong feeling about something, I've got a good track record with that. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to say I'm right every time because I'm not, even though I am. But but when I get a really strong feeling about something, usually it's pretty dead on. I walked into Dave's office and I looked at him and said, he's going to be our youth minister. And Dave goes, you think so? I was like, yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
And so like we were meeting with you, like a week later.
Yeah.
We went to what has become Catalyst Northside Homestretch, the restaurant. Because I think we eat there all the time.
Oh yeah.
But we met with you there. We had I mean, it wasn't really an interview as much as it was, hey, when you start, here's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it was. Because I think from our end, we just knew you were the right guy, and it was a no-brainer for us. And because the nice thing about someone like you being in our church as a student, we're watching this progression happen in front of us. When you're off in college, we're hearing from your parents what's going on. From your conversations with Rob, I'm talking to Rob and he's telling me, man, Donovan's growing like crazy. I really think Donovan has a calling to ministry. And I'm sitting here hearing and watching this whole thing kind of unfold in front of us. And by the time we were looking for a youth minister, it was like God had planned from when you were a freshman in high school that you would be replacing Rob as the youth minister at Catalyst. I genuinely believe that. And I mean, would you say that I'm off base or wrong by that? I mean,
no,
you tell me.
I don't think so. I remember how excited you were just like at the end of lunch. You're just like, can I just tell him? And Dave was like, tell him what? And you're like, that he's our youth minister. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. But it was, it was fun. It was, I think you're spot on.
Yeah, everything. I love when God works and you can take a step back from it and just watch the whole thing unfold in front of you. And that's why I love this being Donovan's Excellent Adventure, because it was an adventure to watch happen. Watch you through relationships with girls and watch you through schooling and college decisions and then life decisions and now potential future decisions for family and all these things that are coming up in your life. It's just, it's an adventure and it's fun to watch. And it's really cool to see how God has just kind of molded and shaped this along the way. Now, I will say this, and because I know I did it. I don't know if you did it at any point. But there were times in my journey to ministry where I fought God, where I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing, but I really didn't want to do it. It's kind of like when Jesus was to go to the cross and he prays, God, if it's okay with you, can you like take this cup from me? Can you like not make me do this? Because I don't want to do this. It's like there were times for me where I'm looking at ministry and going, I don't really want to do this, even though I knew it was what I should be doing. Did you ever go through any times like that where there was doubt or anything like that?
Yeah. So there was a couple times that some of them I didn't really realize in the moment until I looked back at it in a few years. Like when I was at UK, there was I couldn't, for some reason, we couldn't get the FAFSA to go through and work, and we couldn't. Well, we could pay for it. It was just out of pocket, and it was crazy expensive because that's how college is. And there was definitely a feeling that I was like, this isn't really what I want to do, but it's kind of here, and I feel like I should do it. It's fun right now, the whole school thing. And there's definitely that time between my first and second year at UK where we were trying to figure out how I was going to be able to afford to go to that school. And we made it work. I went for a second year, obviously. But looking back on it, there's definitely like signs that I shouldn't have proceeded going. There are signs that 1 year was enough at UK to give me the abilities to talk to Rob and have enough time to grow with him spiritually. And yeah, and then there was definitely doubt in between me making the decision that I wanted to go into ministry and then being offered the job to be the youth minister here, just because Johnson was expensive. Like I wasn't I was thinking about going to Liberty as well online, and that was expensive. And I kind of just sat down and was like, I should just go get a degree in something. And I was looking at Midway and Georgetown to go get a degree in psychology so I could possibly go into seminary kind of thing. And I was just kind of pushing the ministry thing aside for now. And I was like, let me get a degree that I can go use if ministry for whatever reason doesn't work out, then I can have another job kind of thing. But yeah, there's definitely doubts and in times that I was just like, let's just push the ministry thing aside right now and focus on the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I'll say about your story that I love is the fact that it's relationship, it's community that got you here.
Mm-hmm.
Dave and I we've been with a Catalyst for 13 years now. Like it's going to be 14 years this coming spring that Dave and I have been here since we planted Catalyst. And one of the things that both of us over the last 3 years have really come to grips with is the fact that one of the ultimate reasons for the church is community. And churches who really emphasize community thrive. And people who pull away from community spiritually dissolve. It's very hard to really thrive as a Christian if you pull yourself out of community. And you're a great example of somebody who it was because of community, it was because of relationship that you're doing what you're doing right now. It was that relationship you had with Rob that started in League of Legends and then culminated in League of Legends. And so I guess that means I need to start playing League of Legends to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. But yeah, I mean, I need to work on that. But it's just awesome to see how community and relationship are kind of those cornerstone things that brought you to this point.
Yeah.
Not just community in the church, but your family. You've said for a long time your family just loves spending time together. I mean, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, we love spending time together. We do everything and anything together as much as possible. We like on Sunday, my brother and his new wife and his stepchildren were all here with mom and dad to watch me preach. Just because I was preaching, they live in Mount Sterling. He drove all the way from Mount Sterling to Nicholasville, which honestly, I don't know how far that is. I think it's kind of far.
It's over an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a drive.
Just to watch me preach. And then we went out to lunch after. And then that same day, though, we had my other nephew's birthday. He turned 3 the day before, the Saturday before. And we had his birthday, and my entire family was there. We even had my grandmother and one of my cousins there. We always try and do things together. Trick-or-treating. We went trick-or-treating that night. All the kids dressed up in their costumes, and everyone except for Dad, who was passing out candy, walked around the neighborhood together. Just even though me and Kaylee went, and we didn't have kids, obviously, and my mom was there, and she didn't have kids who were trick-or-treating. She just wanted to walk around with her grandchildren while they were trick-or-treating, and have fun with that. And my sister and sister-in-law were there, and they were, being goofy, stealing candy from the kids, as adults do. We take our dad or our uncle or our aunt tax because we're walking with them.
Yeah.
But we just always strive to do everything together, and just having that love and that support around. I mean, my decision to go into ministry, the day I was announced, we all went out to lunch that day. Everyone was there in my family.
Yeah, Daryl said candy tax is what we called it.
Yeah.
Here we go. Laura Baxter, family and community support is one of the vital pieces of our foundation and ministry. 100%. She has a very, very good family as well. Jim and Judy are awesome parents. Now, something really cool has come out of this. We're starting to get down to the home stretch here at the end of this. And I'm not talking about the restaurant that we eat at like way too often, but you have had an impact on your family with your calling into ministry. And now it looks like another member of your family may be feeling that same calling. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So my brother, Hayden, who is the middle brother. So I have 3 older brothers and 1 older sister, and she's the oldest, but he's in between the brothers. He is 30. He was actually wanted to go into ministry out of high school. He went to Cincinnati Christian University. He played baseball and basketball up there and was going there to get a youth ministry degree and a preaching degree. But they cut the baseball program, so he couldn't afford it anymore. And he came home and worked and became an alcoholic. Alcoholism runs in my family for 3 generations now, I believe. So he went and got sober, and he's been sober for, it'll be 7 years in May, I believe.
That's incredible.
So he went to school to be a teacher, and he is, I think, a semester or a year away from being done with his teaching degree. And he is long-term subbing because they couldn't fill a position at Bourbon County High School. But as he goes on, he's feeling this call back into ministry again. He saw the program that I was doing, and he meets with Dave now actually once a week on Thursdays to talk about it. And he's talked to me about it, about the program that I wanted to get, that I do. And I texted him yesterday because I talked to Bobby Jackson, who's the vice president of 4C, who's my teacher, or professor, I guess is his technical title. But talked to him about like transfers and credit transferrings and all that stuff. And Bobby was like, honestly, I don't really, he was like, I haven't had this come up yet. He has never had someone who's taken Bible classes, who's dropped out and wanted to come back and take more Bible classes. And I don't think I've told you this yet, but Bobby was like, if he has to sit on 1 or 2 classes, then we can give him a certificate, then he can sit in on 1 or 2 classes and not be a technical student and get that certificate and not have to do the whole residency thing. So
that's awesome.
He's talking with Brian Bolton because they haven't filled that youth ministry position yet at Centerpoint Christian Church. So he's gonna talk to Brian and then talk to Bobby, and he's talking to Dave, and he loves teaching. He loves high schoolers, and he loves middle schoolers, but he also wants to be a youth minister rather than a history teacher, which are kind of the same thing. So,
yeah. Well, Renee Basham, way to go, Hayden. I've watched him grow into that for 20 years from afar.
yeah.
They were in the same youth group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how awesome to see like God molding things from your childhood till now,
Mm-hmm.
and see that you're already having effect on others. And I'm excited to see what the next several years look like for you.
Yeah.
If anybody saw your first sermon at Catalyst, they saw a 12-minute sermon.
Yep.
If they saw your sermon this past week, they saw a 25-minute sermon, and not just a 25-minute sermon, but a very good 25-minute sermon.
Oh, thank you.
And you're growing by leaps and bounds daily. You're getting more and more confidence in everything you're doing, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I'm saying that publicly because behind the scenes, all I do is rip you a new one, like constantly, because I really don't like you that much.
That's fine.
But,
I don't like you either, so
it's okay. We're fair, right? Neither one of us like each other. No, but in all seriousness, man, it has been awesome to watch you grow and to watch. Oh gosh, Daryl Jordan's giving you a B+.
Hey, that's passing. I don't care.
It's almost an A.
It is.
It's almost an A. But in all seriousness, man, it's been awesome to watch you like grow into the guy that you're becoming. And I know we're scratching the surface right now. I mean, you haven't even been through a year of college yet with this, like you haven't even been through 6 months of ministry yet. This is really cool to see. Like, this is your 6th month. We are starting your 6th month right now, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, or we're starting you started in June, didn't you? So we're starting your 5th month.
June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, this is my.
Did you do that on your fingers?
Yep, I did.
That was great. So yeah, so we're starting your 5th month right now, and it's been amazing just to see where you are now from there, like just May or June, I mean, and so looking forward to seeing what the future is going to look like for you in ministry and everything. What are you and I were talking earlier? To do youth ministry successfully, you got to have volunteers. Mm-hmm. What kind of volunteer needs do you guys have right now in the youth ministry?
So I really need a middle school girl volunteer. I don't care how old you are, honestly, because middle school girls, they don't care how old you are either. I have Kaylee. She's my middle school volunteer. But she's in college. She's a chemical engineering major, so sometimes her weeks are just a little bit too full, and I have to fill in. So just having one more person there to fill in or be there when she's not able to be there, at least right now. And then I would like one more male, either for middle school or high school, whatever they prefer. I can take, a couple more girls and guys too, but I need one girl and one guy, just so I can feel comfortable.
So there's definitely some needs for volunteers in the youth ministry, and you get to work with Donovan. I mean, you can't get much better than that, right?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, gosh, there's nothing better than being around Donovan. So, I mean, he's salty and what is it? Salty and lit. He's salty and lit. So, I mean, what's funny is, dude, you know what lit meant when I was in high school?
Yep, I know.
It did not mean what it means today.
Nope.
And if you said salty and lit youth minister back then, people would be like, my kid's not going to that youth group.
Hey, man.
But
whatever.
But in all seriousness, man, you're doing a great job, and it's been fun. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit more about your story today than what you really got to talk about on Sunday, and had a little more time to actually get into that. Thankful for you, man, and everything you're doing. I'm going to boot you out of here and close things out. But again, thank you for being willing to kind of share your story.
Of course. Thank you for talking to me about it. It's been fun.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
All right, just real quick, just a few announcements, and then we'll let you guys go. It's been an awesome live stream with Donovan. It's always fun to have him on here. Real quick, Night of Worship is going to be Tuesday night, November 23rd at 7 p.m. We will be live streaming that as well. So if you are out of the state, out of the country, you will still be able to be a part of that with us. Laura Baxter, I'm talking to you. If you are interested in joining a community group, just contact David Kibler at dkibler@catalystchristian.net, and he will direct you where you need to go. Every Tuesday from 7 to 9, we do have a group of guys meeting at Monos Coffee, 2209 Lexington Road here in Nicholasville. And you don't have to be a guy. We'd love to have some ladies come and join us for that as well. It's just a great time of fellowship, drinking great coffee in an awesome atmosphere, and want to invite everybody to come out to that. And with that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Lunchtime live stream. As you go back to work, have a blessed day, and we will see you next week.